Coming up on Network Africa. The federal government of Nigeria vows swift rescue of schoolgirls abducted from the government girls comprehensive senior secondary school in Maga, Kebbi State. The United Nations seeks to expand its presence in Sudan as the violence intensifies in the Darfur region. Plus, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation says the country is ready to welcome world leaders to this weekend's G20 summit. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. Welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in northern Nigeria. Maga in Kebbi State is still reeling from a school kidnapping that has left several families in agony. 25 schoolgirls from the Government Girls Comprehensive Senior Secondary School remain in captivity after they were abducted by bandits while they were sleeping on Sunday night. The bandits also killed the school's vice principal, Hassan Makuku. All calls for swift intervention by the government and security agencies have intensified as the Kebbi State Governor, Nasir Idris, says they're doing everything possible to rescue the schoolgirls. The relatives of the late school official, Malam Makuku, are however seeking justice and support for their family.
Maga village in Danko Wasagu local government area of Kebbi State shares a border with neighboring Zamfara State in northwest Nigeria. The village hosts comprehensive girls' secondary school from where 25 schoolgirls were abducted in the early hours of Monday morning. A visit to the school shows the presence of security personnel stationed at the gate. Women continue to troop in and out of the school, some visiting the family of the vice principal who was killed, others hoping to catch a glimpse of the situation as tension remains high. At the home of the late vice principal, Mr. Hassan Makuku, family and friends are observing a second day of mourning for the family's breadwinner who left behind 9 children. His elder brother, Haliru, takes our crew around the house where the incident occurred. He appeals to the government to come to the aid of the family.
We need assistance. The late Malam left behind 9 children, 4 female, 5 male. Some are in secondary school while others have completed their education. The state government should help in giving them scholarship.
Although all students have been asked to leave the school for safety reasons, teachers still report for duty despite the absence of learners. The school has 6 hostel blocks, but the bandits whisked away students only from one of the blocks, Adamu Alero House.
As I mentioned earlier, that most of the parents are here. There is even one that fainted yesterday. She fainted here because they took 2 of her children. That is why I'm saying we are begging the state government and the federal government, please, they should come to our aid and rescue these children. Because I believe the federal government can do it and the state government can do it. Let them come. Let us join hands together. We cannot do anything with the teachers.
The school's proximity to the forest, as visible from the perimeter fence, highlights how vulnerable the students were to security threats.
In the meantime, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, has ordered Operation Fasonyama troops to intensify efforts to rescue the 25 female students of the Government Girls Senior Secondary School Maga in Kebbi State. The directive came during his operational tour of the state. Addressing frontline commanders and troops, General Shaibu emphasized intelligence-driven operations and relentless day and night pursuit of the abductors. The COAS also recognized local vigilantes and hunters as vital partners, urging them to leverage their knowledge of the terrain in coordination with troops to locate and neutralize criminal elements. Earlier, General Shaibu paid a condolence visit to the traditional ruler of Danko, Alhaji Abubakar Aleje, and the principal of GGCSS Maga, the school, that's Hajia Rabi Magaji, assuring them of the Army's unwavering commitment to rescuing the students unharmed. He concluded by urging troops to remain resilient, disciplined and professional, acting within the rules of engagement while responding decisively to restore peace across Kebbi State and surrounding areas. The United States House of Representatives Subcommittee on Africa has set Thursday, November 2025, as the date to begin an investigation into President Donald Trump's recent redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern over Christian killings in the country. The invite to the members of the Committee on Foreign Affairs is scheduled for 11 a.m. in room 2172 of the Rayburn House Office Building and available via live webcast, and will be chaired by Representative Chris Smith, a Republican representative. It will feature 2 panels of witnesses, including senior U.S. State Department officials and Nigerian religious leaders. President Trump's designation comes amid repeated attacks on Christian communities in Nigeria, including killings by Islamic extremist groups, kidnappings, and the destruction of churches. Or later today, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Michael Waltz, will be hosting a special event that's focused on combating religious violence and the killing of Christians in Nigeria, which he calls a key Trump administration priority. Well, U.S. rapper Nicki Minaj is also expected to be making a speech at that event. Well, let's unpack the security situation in the country. Joining us now in the studio is Jerry Chukwueke, a political analyst and the former chief technical advisor to the Imo State governor. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, while the federal government of Nigeria says it's working with, the security chiefs in northern Nigeria, we've seen this latest kidnapping, 25 girls from a government school. How does this reflect on the Nigerian government? And how especially will this impact, the U.S. president's decision on military intervention in the country?
Well, it seems to me, and this is my view, that the perpetrators of this recent act of going after our schoolgirls in Kebbi are testing the resolve of Mr. President and the new security team he's put together. I think they will fail. And I say it for this reason. We know that the security challenge in Nigeria is going on for many years, predates this administration. But the killings have been too many. I don't think there's any doubt about it, that Nigerians deserve safety and security of lives and property. There's no doubt. It's a fundamental responsibility of government. Having said that, we also know historically how we got here. That originating largely from the Northeast was the ideological, the fundamentalism, the jihadism. We understand that. And we don't argue that. And then you can get into how the killings did transpire, whether it was mostly Christians they went after, or they went after also some Muslims. But when you move from that and go into the Northwest, where insecurity also has reigned, it was more of banditry, kidnapping for ransom. It was more of creating chaos enough for people who had commercial interests in certain parts of our people's lands, just to access perhaps rare earth minerals. There's a combination of things, but with an economic undertone. And I make that point because I'll come back to it. Now, when you now move further, you see how fundamentalism moved further through, say, Nasarawa, the pressure in southern Kaduna, in the previous administration, not this current administration, in Kaduna State. And then, of course, where we are in Benue and Plateau, the impact of all of that, and now coming even further in the central of Kwara and Niger, and we see that going on. But, and in fact, when you go down southeast, the agitation and the insecurity that has come as a consequence. So if you dimension it properly, those that have the economic undertones, you can deal with from a different perspective to say these are largely economic pressures. And I'll come to that in a minute. But look, the killings have been too many. I believe that this president is standing up to this challenge. He understands what needs to get done. And Nigerians ought not panic. I think we're in good hands. I believe that strongly.
So how would you, how would you suggest the Nigerian government respond to this, especially in light of the global attention the security challenges has
I get it. Now,
garnered?
Bear in mind that that congressional act, a country of particular concern, has a 90-day pause. The 90-day pause is remedial, gives the country in question the opportunity to get on with it and solve the problem. I think that's what Mr. President is doing. I don't think we should take the threat of Mr. President Trump lightly. But quite frankly, I think the United States will look at better and more effective ways of supporting Nigeria so long as we're making the efforts. And that's the key. Are we making sufficient efforts? The efforts are already underway. I think that they will find that it will be more strategic to partner with us, this government, to deal with this particular threat of fundamentalism and the jihad, and even some of this banditry and all of the chaos. I think our security agencies and our people, men and women in the armed forces, and those involved in securing our lives, are doing a good job. Can more be done? Yes. But I think that this president understands that Nigeria will be put to shame. We are not a disgraced country. He won't let it happen. I think that what's keeping him up at night is how to prove to the world that we can dig out of this and continue the respect the world has started to give us again, bearing in mind that the real challenge of the threat that Mr. President has made is the economic impact of investment, investor confidence, and how this could impact the results we've been seeing as a consequence of the reform that this president is putting in place. That's, I think, where the real challenge is. But I'm confident Mr. President is working hard and will have good results out of it.
All right, just very quickly and finally, what would you know, Nigerians right now, they're crying out on social media. What are your thoughts on this? You know, they're crying out and saying, you know, the U.S. president should come and save Nigeria. What would be your message?
No. Look, this president, and I'm convinced of this, and Nigerians are capable of standing up to this challenge. The challenge is real.
Yes.
But can we deal with it and significantly cut it down and get it under control? I believe we can. There is nothing any more important now than ensuring that the gains of the reforms of Mr. President can continue to blossom. We've started to see the results. I think more can be done in the local areas, local governments, for our people to feel more and more of the impact. But let me say this. I think as we approach 2027, that we face another moment of truth in how our system can identify and grow new leadership that will focus more on the common good and delivering what our people are looking for, good governance. Because when you have good governance at the center, at the subnational levels, including and in particular local governments, our people start to feel the impact of the work that is going on. More jobs, power supply, more health care and education, okay, more water, get jobs, get food security. Let our people feel the impact of these reforms more. The busier they are, the less the criminality, the less the agitation, and I believe improved security. So good governance is a key factor in it. And I think that 2027 presents even an important opportunity in that regard.
Thank you so much, Jerry Chukwueke, political analyst and the former chief technical advisor to Imo State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Very glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. South Africa to refuse charter flights of Palestinians over fears of what it calls fencing agenda. We'll give you more details after the break. Please join us again. Thank you so much for staying with us. Nigeria's Minister of Environment and head of the delegation to the United Nations Climate Conference in Belém, Brazil, Balarabe Abbas Lawal, has said that this year Nigeria has a low number of delegates and many of them fund themselves. The number of delegates to the conference draws criticism every year, but the government says many get the analysis wrong. The minister spoke to Channels Television after delivering the country's statement at the high-level segment of COP30. Our correspondent Ayola Kasim, who is in Belém, has more.
Ministers arrive in Belém to hash out the wordings of a large number of legal texts as COP30 enters the second week. During the first week, negotiators have haggled over words and paragraphs, but now the politicians have to complete the tasks. During the high-level segment, the Nigerian Minister of Environment told his colleagues that while the country is working hard to champion climate efforts in the West African sub-region, it is hoping to see others contribute their fair share.
We stand ready for collaboration in synergy, mobilize resources, share knowledge, and accelerate innovative solutions for a just and sustainable transition.
The Executive Secretary of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change reminds everyone of what is at stake, saying the only way for humanity to survive the climate crisis is for parties to protect the Paris Agreement.
Clearly, there is a huge amount of work ahead for ministers and negotiators. I urge you to get to the hardest issues fast. When these issues get pushed deep into extra time, everybody loses.
The President of the United Nations General Assembly, on her part, says it is time to embrace the solutions that are scalable and good for people and planet.
Our task now is to ensure that this innovation and the financing thereof reaches everyone, everywhere, especially those who have yet to benefit on it, especially on the African continent, because this was also the promise of Paris.
Responding to issues raised on the size of Nigeria's delegation to the COP, Minister of Environment says apart from Nigeria needing the delegates to speak for the country's interests, the issues of the climate should not be politicized.
So that information in that portal is not an information that you can use to say this is the number of people that attend the COP. Even look at like I said, look at the number of ministers that are supposed to be here, or have been registered to be here. How many have you seen? 3. I can have only 3 ministers came in. Myself, Minister of Livestock, and Minister of Regional Development. They're the only ministers that are here. But if you look at the list, how many have you seen? Many ministers. And the large number of people you see, by the time you sit down and do the tally, you find that only, I don't think, about 30–40% of the number that you see that actually are here. And out of that, less than 10% were smooth by the government.
While the COP presidency has released the consultation text with issues like how to respond to ambitious gap in national climate plans and climate finance listed. Analysts say the text shows the presidency's intention, but the challenge ahead is whether finance and ambition will be leveraged to drive strong outcome or allow the process to slip with a clear pathway forward. From the Hunger Convention and Fair Center of the Amazon in Berlin, Brazil, Ayola Kasim, Channels Television News.
The UN humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, is calling for a major increase and expansion of the United Nations presence in Sudan as violence intensifies in Darfur. Briefing from Sudan, Mr. Fletcher said the organization must deploy more personnel and position itself closer to communities facing the worst of the crisis. He describes conditions in Darfur as a horror show, saying El Fasher is effectively a crime scene based on testimonies from survivors. Mr. Fletcher's visit to Sudan is part of a 5 to 6 week surge in leadership engagement, which also includes senior figures from the International Organization for Migration and the World Food Programme. South Africa says it does not want to receive any more chartered flights carrying Palestinians, and this is coming days after the controversial arrival of over 150 passengers from Gaza in the country. Many aspects of their arrival remain unclear and disputed. Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola alleges the flight was part of a clear agenda to cleanse Palestinians out of Gaza and the West Bank. Israeli authorities, however, have not responded to this allegation, but they say South Africa had previously agreed to receive the 153 Palestinians. The Palestinian embassy in South Africa has said the group left Israel's Ramon airport and flew to the country via the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, without any prior note or coordination. It accuses an unregistered and misleading organization of exploiting the plight of the Gaza citizens, saying they deceived families, collecting money from them, and facilitated their travel in an irregular and irresponsible manner. All the flights that's at the center of this dispute arrived on Thursday last week at South Africa's OR Tambo International Airport. The passengers were initially refused entry into the country and were stuck on the plane for more than 10 hours. Well, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, has confirmed that 42 nations and organizations will participate in the G20 summit that will be held in Johannesburg. Mr. Lamola also highlighted that 4 countries, including Russia, will not be represented by a head of state. He delivered the update during a media briefing in Johannesburg. Well, the 2025 G20 Leaders Summit is set to take place in the city on November 22 to 23 under South Africa's presidency. And as we end our program for today, here's a fun fact about the continent. Did you know that there are 16 landlocked countries in Africa, and these countries are all located in the interior of the continent and have neither access to the Atlantic Ocean or the Indian Ocean? 2 of these landlocked countries are the tiny countries of Eswatini and Lesotho, and those 2 are located within the country South Africa. Now, the other countries include Botswana, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Central African Republic, Chad, Ethiopia, Lesotho, Malawi, Mali, Niger, Rwanda, South Sudan, Swaziland, Uganda, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.